So in our Lesson 8, Write Checks, Enter Bills, and Pay Bills webinar, we are going to be covering how to write a check, what a vendor quick check is, very cool feature. We touched bases on the Make Bank Deposit feature in the Daily Sales and Cash Drawer webinar last week, but I want to touch on it briefly again today because it has to do with the checking. And then we'll talk about how you reconcile your bank account, because it's also how we put in our beginning balances, which everybody on the call is going to want to do right after the first of the year. And we're going to talk a little bit about how that process works, since you have checks that come in after January 1st and they were written in the prior year. We'll talk about that. And then really just touch on the other major data entry part of your daily lives, and that's restocking your parts tickets, all your parts purchases, forgive me, and how that flows into pay bills. And then we're going to talk about those monthly bills where we have this enter bills feature on our icon. So let's just start with the write a check feature. So here's our icon. It just opens up. Notice it'll default to the last bank account that you used, and for me that was a U.S. Bank Primary, if you guys see that at the top. So it's kind of a new feature, and not even sure which version you're on, Sarah, but in the write a check feature we now have the ability to just show our vendors or just show others, and the others are the people that we've entered. They're not a vendor, not an employee, not a customer. They're just something we added onto our list of payees so that we can write them a check. So if you have anybody that you ever put on account, bill you charge anything with, of course those will always be a vendor, whether it's Snap-on or your uniform company or anybody that you actually put a charge on. These other vendors are just people that you actually don't enter the bill into MaxxTraxx. You just write the check and disperse it. So we also have the ability just to show employees and customers. That's what this search field is. So let's just, for fun, we will select all data. And you'll notice here in the lower, kind of right above all data's name, or see where it says type, they're a customer and a vendor. So what's kind of cool about that is, and we'll talk about this in the pay bills a little bit later on, is you can pay a vendor bill, let's say all data, by trading work that you do on their truck, let's say, on all data's, salesman's car or something like that. So that's a kind of cool feature in here. Let's grab another one where we know, let's see, Aflac. So here's one. Aflac says under type, other. Now that means that they're not in there as a vendor or any of the other possibilities, customer or employee. They're just there because I write a check to Aflac every month or every quarter, and I disperse it. I don't actually ever physically enter that bill first to be paid at a later date. Now the reason why this other down here is so important is when we talk about the vendor quick check. But I just wanted you guys to see the different type can say other. Let's jump down to AutoZone, for example. AutoZone says vendor. Okay? So when we do a write a check, let's pick one that's like, here we go. Here's one for, oh, even better, Sam's Club. Let's say I select them, and I write $150 to Sam's Club, or let's say $50 for Sam's Club. Maybe that's just for my membership. I know that we're going to be going to Sam's Club this week, so I just entered in the amount. It automatically pops down to my memo field down here, and I might type in annual membership as my memo. And then if I just hit the tab key on my keyboard, or this add disbursement button here in the lower left, guys, I jump to my check disbursement. Now everybody here is a bookkeeper on the call, so you guys are familiar with this. Pretty straightforward. We just click our general ledger, and I click the select button. Here's our general ledger chart of accounts. So we just pick it. Now I just, most of the time, 90% of the time, just type the number 6. It jumps me down to my expenses. And you guys can see, pretty straightforward, similar to your previous versions of MaxxTraxx. They're going to be, all the payroll stuff is at the top. And then we get down to semi-alphabetical. So it's just advertising, consulting. So it goes semi-alphabetical. Now for me, guys, I added a lot of custom expenses in here. If I wanted to break out, you know, my expenses a little bit more than what they may have. Like for example, I've got one for consulting accountant, consulting legal, consulting other. You know, this could be a management, I could say consulting management company like ATI, for example. So all you have to do is click Add GL Account and put it in. You guys all should be pretty familiar with adding GL account. Okay. Now remember, we kind of want to keep them semi-alphabetical. Makes it easier to search. So if I were to say consulting, maybe management firm or management company, I might want to go with 61,010. So I would go 61010, and that'll put me in this particular order. And this would be consulting, let's say, management firm, like ATI. Now the type, if I wasn't sure what the type was going to be, just look up here, right above it. You can see it shows for all these other ones expenses, and you just scroll down here and select your account type. And this is pretty important. Of course, this is what makes it show up on different reports, this general ledger account number. And I could put a note in here. Maybe this is ATI monthly subscription. Maybe that's who I normally pay it to if I want to put a note. And then adds it to my list. And you can see it's, again, alphabetical. If you guys have custom accounts, like Sarah, I'm sure you do in QuickBooks, yeah, and are you on the 5-digit chart of accounts or a 4-digit chart of accounts?
4.
Okay, so keep in mind when we switch over to MaxxTraxx, you know, we really don't mind you guys adding accounts. It's actually not a problem, but you don't want to be renaming too many expenses. You guys can get away with quite a bit. But notice these things, that wages and salary, or for holiday pay and sick pay, vacation pay. Keep in mind that MaxxTraxx is designed through the payroll feature to automatically put expenses in here when you run the payroll feature, for example. So there's a lot of things. Sales tax automatically goes to account number 23600. Social Security, you know, that's going to automatically go to like 23410 or something like that. So again, you probably don't want to be changing any accounts, but you can add some additional accounts. If you customized in MaxxTraxx, Jody and Amanda, you guys will need to go into your chart of accounts and enter in any customized chart or accounts, because the chart of accounts does not convert in the data conversion. It just goes back to the default. So same with you, Sarah. We're going to have to go through and look at the numbers and try to align them up. In fact, I did that with a gal in October, switching over from QuickBooks to MaxxTraxx. She just actually emailed me her chart of accounts, and we went through them together. And because I'm pretty familiar with it, I'll say, oh yeah, this one goes here and this one goes here. Keep in mind, MaxxTraxx users, we did change some of the payroll tax accrual accounts, defaults, impound accounts, just slightly, from like, I don't know, something that ended in 500 to ended in 050 instead. So just keep that in mind when you're, you know, entering in your beginning general ledger balances. Any questions on this, guys?
I do have a quick question. If you'll scroll back down to the account that you just created.
Yep. Consulting, management, yeah.
Okay, say for instance, I have several accounts that I've actually created and entered, and I want to perhaps change the numbers or switch the order. Will that flow through the system, or will it create some sort of kludge?
Well, you know, Amanda, well, don't forget, when we do convert, me or Rhonda Lou will be with you for an hour just going over nothing over other than this. And I'm actually doing this with Sarah as well, but we have to do a cleanup, and then we have to kind of do a reset. So we go through that with you, but, you know, if I wanted to, are you thinking changing, for example, consulting accountant to something else? Or
just like moving forward in the future, because I tend to be very OCD with alphabetical lists and so forth. If I wanted to change the 61050 to 61005, would that create an issue with all the transactions I've entered on that account already? Does that make sense?
Oh, after, yes. after you put anything, any transaction at all in that account, you can't edit it. You can edit the label, the account description up here.
Okay.
But we can never change the account number once there's something in there.
Okay.
And you know,
so it'll prevent us from actually creating that sort of issue for ourselves.
Right. A different account number. But in the very beginning, though, you do have that option. But you know, for example, what I'm looking at, I have. Let's just try this for fun. That's a great question, and this is a demo version. I get to do whatever I want. So I'm going to put, where's my maintenance auto truck? There it is. Okay, so if I were to change this, let's say, oh, you know, it won't let me. I was just going to say, I have maintenance auto truck under my money bag, because that's definitely my payout. I do a payout of cash whenever I put fuel or, you know, anything I had to do on the parts truck. I would post to maintenance auto and truck, and I'm thinking that's in the money bag. But since I already have transactions in here, you know, I'm not going to, whoops, I didn't mean to do that. I'm not actually going to be able to change that. I was just wondering, though, if I change that there, you know, I usually go over this on Wednesday. Okay, so what number is that? Oh, wait a minute, 66150. Let me show you guys a field that I don't normally go over very often. Let's get out of this check here for a moment. This is some great questions. Under Setups, Accounting and Payroll, we have the default account posting setup, and this has a couple different categories. This is my cash and system account. You know, for example, you know, anything that goes down in the money bag shows up in cash and system accounts. RO sales and cost of goods. This is what happens when you close an RO in the background, so you may be posting to discounts or, you know, sales tax collected, for example. You know, so a couple of these things, if you were to change them, which these aren't, well, some of these are expenses, I take that back. If you were to change the name of the GL account that it went to or the number, you would have to come over into this default account postings setup and edit it as well. Because when you actually close out that RO, it's saying, well, if you made something a labor warranty, you know, like in that labor, we all know the sales detail information screen for labor, right, where we can check the box that says make it a warranty discount instead of a sales discount. That's going to flow here automatically. So you could see if we were to change some of those general ledger account numbers, you know, expect these. Cash payout disbursements, for example, I add to this. I added, you know, office meals, I think, miscellaneous supplies, gas for company vehicles. There's my 66150, maintenance auto truck. So if I were to change it on my chart of accounts, it would affect my default account posting. So like this one I made at car wash for customers. So I put that in as an expense. So that's the only thing about changing those, Amanda, is how it would affect that here. Let's see another one, miscellaneous cash in. Again, a money bag transaction would go to one of these. Here's like scrap metal income or warranty credit, that kind of stuff. Let's see, account payable. This is when you're posting your restock parts invoices from your vendor. You see these are kind of going to the default. So again, I kind of go back to probably adding, but not wanting to change a lot of these. We'll talk a little bit more about this because I also want to talk about the payroll ones on Wednesday. Does that answer your question, Amanda? Kind of
absolutely.
Roundabout kind of way?
Indeed. I don't mean to send you out in left field.
Oh, gosh, no, not at all. Let's jump back into the write a check feature. So we're going to, again, select Sam's Club, $50, and it's a membership. And then if I were to click on the tab key on my keyboard or add disbursement, I'm just going to type a stick and select. It just jumps me down to my expenses. And I just go down to whatever, you know, for this one, do we have like memberships? There it is, memberships dues. You select it. And then I could put an additional memo here in case I was doing a multiple disbursement. This defaults to the memo that I put up here. But if I were going to have multiple disbursements for Sam's Club, I might say one of these things is membership, or, gosh, maybe I bought, you know, a box of toilet paper or something for the shop, and I would maybe itemize under office supplies or something. That's fun. We will say we have multiple disbursements. I'll change the amount. That goes to membership. and then I'm still out of balance by $10. You see that in the red in the lower right, guys? So I'll click on the Add Disbursements button again, and I'll put, I'll just hit 6 and select and go down to, let's say, office, I don't know, I'll say office supplies. And maybe I'll just put here, it's paper towels. Because I can run a transaction report that says, what's everything I put in this account, 67100, and it will give me memos. So that would be how you would do multiple disbursements. Just edit the amount and enter it in. And if I made a boo-boo, I could just highlight the line and hit the edit key or delete it and redo it. One other thing here, guys, when we're in the Write a Check feature, sometimes, and not always, don't think about the system, but sometimes we can actually change at this point which checking account I actually am going to write this check out of. Okay, pretty straightforward. Couple of features on this screen, and again, we talk about these in the training videos, but I'm just going to highlight them. You know, you write checks all day long, and computer checks. But, you know, still 1 out of 5 or 1 out of 10 is a handwritten check because you're giving it to your driver or your parts driver, whatever, who it needs to run to the dealer and pay, you know, COD for parts of the dealer. Just uncheck the to be printed box up here, guys, and then fill in the actual number, which it was actually check number, you know, 4458 or whatever. And our option down here just goes to post and close if we are not going to actually print the check. The other thing that we do these days is we have, you know, check cards, Visa check cards coming out of our checking account. If that's what it is, you know, you can put in here debit, to use the debit card, or if you have somebody that is more than happy to just take their payment right out of your checking account for you on a monthly basis, maybe your electric bill, for example, just put EFT, electronic funds transfer. Okay?
Isn't like MaxxTraxx where you can't use the same check number?
It lets you. In fact, if I were to do this EFT and I were to say post check, post and close, it'll warn me. It'll say the check number you have selected to print for this account already exists. Do you want to continue to print the check with a duplicate number? Because I could easily have 15 of these EFTs in a month. Easily. Right. So you'll have the same thing if you use a Visa card, you know, that debit card for your checking account, same thing. But kind of remember our golden rule in MaxxTraxx is what are the 3 pieces of data that we need to have in our system to have a complete, accurate and financial picture of our business. All of our ROs and payments, all of our parts purchases, and if you write a check or every expense in one way or another gets paid to your checking account, you know, we always call it our great equalizer. Once you reconcile that checking account, you know that you will, at that point, have a complete financial picture. Now, the cash drawers are one little caveat, and that's why we do our daily sales and cash drawer report every day. But as long as you do this daily sales and cash drawer report and manage your cash on hand, and then reconcile your bank account in MaxxTraxx, it's a complete financial picture. I mean, everything will be in there. Okay? So that's an essential part of it, you know, writing the check. Now, let's say, what are, you know, the many things that we write checks for? We write checks to our parts warehouses at the end of the month. Those we just pay through, write our checks through Payable. So, again, 1/3 of our data entry is entering every part that we ever purchase for our shop, and that includes parts, shop supply, and sublet. So once you restock a part, whether or not you're going to pay cash, check, or put it on account, it still will always flow over to Payable. Okay? So then what you're going to do is you're going to go into this vendor at the end of the month and highlight them, click Next, maybe tag a bunch of invoices to pay. Wow, I really owe these people a lot of money. Hit the Next button. And here we select our payment method. So again, maybe we're going to actually write a check to O'Reilly's. So I'll go ahead and click on check. You know, maybe they're going to do an electronic funds transfer. Maybe they can just, you know, auto debit our account. Same thing, we would open up the check, write a check feature by selecting check and finish. See, same screen, but it's already all filled out. Who it's going to, the date. We actually can change our date. Let's say they're going to do an EFT on Friday. Okay, the amount, It's already tagged all the repair or restock parts invoice numbers that we wanted to pay on this one. It does print out a stub, but we also do have a report called the AP stub report, just a kind of a cool feature instead of just burning through our checks like we did in MaxxTraxx. Any questions on how this works here, guys?
No.
Okay, same thing. We can post and close, print now, or print later, because we also can say print checks in queue. So let's say we're going to print this one later. Okay, where that shows up is under banking, print checks in queue, which account, and there it is. We can select to print it and then print it here. And of course, it'll ask us to verify our next check number. Okay, so that's, we can go through write a check for things that we don't already have in our system, or you know, things that we don't put on account, bills, and I am kind of the ilk to always put all my bills into MaxxTraxx, even though I may be paying them immediately. You guys may remember in MaxxTraxx we have the ability to enter a restock part and write the check right from there instead of having to post and update inventory, have it show up under pay bills, and then having to tag it, hit next, you know, maybe click that one single invoice, hit next, and get to the write a check feature. So they may eventually tie that all into one big step, one big workflow. But for right now, every single part that you purchase, whether or not you pay cash, check, or it's on account, from restock parts will go into the pay bills. Does that make sense, guys?
Yes.
And a little bit different than what we had before, and a little bit longer, honestly, but that's the way that workflow works. So with that being said, let's say somebody, this is one of my favorite features. Of course, I never used it because I never even knew the feature was in here. Let's say that somebody delivers parts to my shop, and it's from a dealer, and there's, you know, 12 parts. It's a timing belt job. 12 parts on the invoice. Do you think for a second I'm going to go on a restock parts and enter in my restock parts ticket, and then enter all the parts that are probably not even in the system to my add a part wizard, right? I have to do it the old-fashioned way with it. Find my dealer and tag it. There's no way in God's green earth that they're going to wait. So we have this really cool feature. So let's just look at this one, for example, 1345. This is just an example. Let's say this is not even in here. So the parts driver shows up, and you just get the invoice. How much is it? And, okay, great. Motor City Dodge. Now notice something very critical, guys. That's why I showed you earlier. Type says vendor. As long as the type says vendor, this vendor quick check feature works. I'm going to select them. I'm going to put in $13.45. And I might put on here, you know, invoice number, whatever it was. I don't even know what it was. But if I just hit the tab key, if I then post this to Payable, just hit the number 2 and hit select. Payable trade. What it will do is it will take this $13.45 and put it on Motor City Dodge's account as a credit to use later. Okay, love this. So you can actually post and print the guy the check right now. Okay, so in this case, I'm just going to say print later. Well, actually, let's just say it was an EFT. But it obviously would be a real life check because we're giving it to the driver. Okay, so now, you know, I finally get around to getting my restock parts ticket and going into restock parts, entering it, going through the whole, you know, rigmarole, and clicking my post and update inventory. And you know, when I finally hit post, it's posting to accounts payable in my pay bills list, and I'm updating my inventory for these quantities, right? That's what we're doing when we're restocking parts, which is a huge part of our world. So then we just go back into pay bills, find that Motor City Dodge, and you'll see there's the credit for the check that I wrote, and maybe this is the restock parts ticket that I finally got around to doing maybe 2 hours later. So I tagged them both. They says net amount to pay is 0 in the lower right. See that, guys? So now I still hit the next button, and I just hit finish. So no pay method even to select because it's 0. So that's how that vendor quick check works. So I have some shops that, frankly, they just vendor quick check just about everything. I have some shops that pay just once a week. Some people these days, crazy or not, maybe it's their credit rating, I don't know, are on COD with just about everybody. So, or maybe they just want to stay on top of their bills because they have that much cash flow. So can you guys see how that vendor quick check can save you a bundle of time?
Yeah. Now, if we handwrite checks, but like, you know, say we're sending a vendor a check once a month, and we handwrite the check, and we want to say we're paying these 10 invoices. Is there something in like reports that will pretty much give you like a bill payment stub that would print out on the bottom of the check, but since we're not printing a check,
if you, I'm thinking about that. You know, let's give it a whirl. Let's give it a whirl. So let's jump into Payable. That's actually a great question, Sarah. So let's jump into Napa, and let's just grab a couple of, let's just grab them all for October. So let's see, I'm going to write this down. It's $90.59. So let me just hit cancel and save this really quick because I want to look and see what my next check number is because I don't honestly know. So I'm going to my check register, banking, view check register, and let me find my oldest check or next check number. Let's see, 4451, does that look right? Let's see, 4454. So let's see if I got 4455. So let's give this a whirl. If I were to, now am I going to tag the invoices and hit post only? Or am I going to write a vendor quick check, Sarah, in this scenario? So I've actually handwritten out my check, right?
Yeah. I would handwrite it, like basically what I do every month is I handwrite out the check, and then I go in and say, all right, I want to pay these. Well, you've got 5 invoices, so 5 Napa invoices.
Okay.
And then I'll write out the check, and then I'll print something out that says invoice 1, invoice 2 for, you know, X amount of dollars that totals $90.59.
Well, let's check this out. If I hit check and I hit finish, and remember, I'm not going to print it. I'm going to uncheck the box that says to be printed because I hand wrote it, and I'm just manually saying I use check number 4455 and hit post and close. You know, post and close. That's it.
Yeah. Now before you do.
Yeah.
Oh, I was going to say now pretty much everything down here that says that's an account 20,000.
Yeah.
I would just want a copy of that to print out.
Let's look and see if we get that. So it'd be these 5 here. Let's see. It starts with the 3 of 5, 6, 8, and 9. Coincidentally. Okay. So now let's go out of here. Go up to banking. Where is that feature? Here it is. Under vendors. Print accounts payable check stub report.
Okay.
Let's just not show checks from today. Okay, there's Napa. So if I select and I hit print, so even though, you hand wrote that check, you still can print out a check stub report to mail in with your check so they know exactly what you say you're paying for.
Yeah. Okay. Excellent.
That's actually, I'm glad you brought that up, and we got to see what this check stub report looks like, and that actually works. So even if you don't physically print out the check, we still can look at that. So I think it just searches by date range, guys. Even if it was maybe like an electronic funds transfer, maybe you wanted to note that in the vendor account or something. It will probably say the amount, check number, EFT, date, and you can throw this in the vendor's actual file in the drawer if you want. Good one. That's an excellent question. Okay, so we've got that one. So we talked about write a check. You guys, any questions on that vendor quick check? A little bit tricky, but as long as you, now little side note, the vendor account, I had this once an example. The vendor account, for example, Citibank would not be one. Check out my Citibank Visa. And this segues into another feature. Under my Citibank Visa vendor account, under account, you'll see I have a special account. See where it says this little radio button in the bottom, use special account. And instead of going to 20,000, payable trade, it's going to $20,300 payable credit card. So you guys see, if I had used that vendor quick check account, it would have kind of got lost in space, because this actually has a different payable account, where 99% of all of our parts warehouses will say $20,000 payable paid, or they should. But why, this is a good one, why do I have this Citibank Visa, which is really just another vendor, showing up as a special account? Another awesome feature you might have noticed. Let's look at the other one, American Express account. Again, it also is posting, instead of to $20,000 to $20,300 payable credit card. What makes that really cool, guys, let's go back into pay bills, is I can say with WorldPack, I'm going to tag a couple of WorldPack invoices here. Next, you see I've got American Express Gold and Citibank as a payable option. So frankly, what's happening when we really do that? If we select WorldPack and say that would be the smallest WorldPack bill in history, Citibank Visa, if I did that, what it's really just done is taken that $170 or whatever it was and just moved it from my WorldPack payable to my Citibank Visa payable. There it is, 172. That's all it really did. Moved it one from one to another. But you know what, these days I've got folks that I actually have one shop, they fly 3 people every year to Japan because they use their JAL, Japan Airlines Visa, to pay all their parts bills. So there's a lot of people that do that. Or the parts warehouses, for their security, want to put your credit card number on account at the parts warehouse. So that's how it would work in your system. Hopefully you guys aren't charging each individual invoice to that credit card, because that could get challenging. Maybe they just do it once a week or at the end of the day. So you would use the exact same philosophy. You would go into whatever that part warehouse was. Maybe this is just one day's worth, these two. Click next. It's going to Citibank and finish. So what's happening is I'm really just moving these into my Citibank Visa, and I'm going to have a bunch of things to pay in here. Make sense there, guys?
Yeah.
Actually, this segues into one other issue. So what do you do when you're reconciling your Visa statement, and how do you pay that? Do you guys, a lot of you guys have company credit cards on the call?
Yes, we do.
Yes.
Okay. So what will happen is you're going to have, this, and unfortunately, I'm not thrilled about this. You see, there's no description that says that this was WorldPack. There's nothing here that says this was AutoZone. Kind of a bummer for me. I don't really like that feature in the system, but I've got a feature request to put some more, detail, payment detail in this invoice number field. It's just really hard to repurpose fields, apparently, according to the programmers. But now let's say my bill to Citibank is really, $350, because I bought some gas, I bought a case of paper, I used my credit card to buy the guy's pizza one day. So what do? Well, you actually have to get out of Payable. So I'm going to hit cancel, and it says, would you like to save your work done? Sure. So then I actually have to go up to vendors, accounts payable vendor list, get down to Citibank. I just type the letter C on my keyboard. And what I do, there's 2 different ways of doing this, guys. You can go under options and create a new invoice. And let's say it was an extra $150 worth of stuff. Now I could just say my invoice was, let's say November, just November. I'm just going to leave it November, maybe 2011. And it actually was on my November 30th statement from Citibank, $150. So I would just go down here, and I could say, well, first of all, I filled up the parts truck, and remember, I put that under maintenance auto truck, and I don't know, I put $45 worth of gas in there. And I would put in my memo field, maybe gas for parts truck. And then I would probably say, okay, add some more. Let's say that was meals. I can't remember what meals is, like office meals. I think it's, let's see, office meals. Okay. So you see, I could put, $50 in here for pizza, for Snap-on training session or whatever. And you guys see I'm just going down each line. And then let's say the balance I got from, you know, Office Max or something. So 634, I think it's close there. Where's my, oh, not even close. Office supplies. And I could put here Office Max paper. Maybe I got some paper. So 2 ways of doing this, guys. I've actually have people actually create an AP invoice here. And for the invoice number, they would just put Office Max. And then they would, or yeah, they would just put one thing down, just, you know, case of paper and $55. And then they click OK. And then they create another AP invoice. And then they post it off to put up an invoice number, you know, Pizza Hut or whatever, and then disperse out just the $50. But to me, that's a lot of extra data entry, so I just put it all in one. But it's up to you. I've seen it done both ways. So when I click OK, and let's just say Save and Close, now I actually can go into Options and hit Pay Bills from here, which takes me out to my Pay Bill screen. Or, you know, I could click on the icon later on. But see, here's my other charges. See this here, guys? So again, I could have done one for Office Max, one for Conoco for the gas station, and one for Pizza Hut, and had them all dispersed individually. But I don't see really why you do that. Now my gal in California, in Berkeley, that does this, I mean, she has, I don't know, 30 to 50 charges every month over and above her parts purchases. I mean, they just put everything, you know, in the kitchen sink on their Visa. So that's how I would handle that, because a lot of people are using company credit cards now. So again, just hit Pay, and maybe in this case it was check, but it was really an EFT. I pay my Citibank online. Make sense, guys?
So far, so good.
Okay. Another thing, when you guys get ready to do this, if you need to, give us a call. We would rather spend 10, 15 minutes reminding you that, you know, the correct way to do these workflows and do it right, and then you guys will have it from then on out. The interesting thing about this is this stuff that you only do once a month, sometimes it's hard to remember. You know, it's not like you're doing it every single day. After you guys do your third daily sales and cash flow report, you'll never ask again. But some of these monthly things are a little bit tricky. Okay? So we covered the write a check feature. We've got the vendor quick check. We already talked about how those restock parts tickets show up under Pay Bills. Does that make sense to you guys? Every time you post an update inventory, it shows up here. So that accounts for, I don't know, look at all these bills. You know, 80% of our bills probably. So then what else do we have? We have our monthly bills. And this is what the Enter Bills icon is over here on the left for. Okay, so with Enter Bills, this is things like your electricity, your insurance bill, your rent, that kind of thing. You know, and I have gone back and forth over the last almost 20 years. Back in 1992 in MaxxTraxx, I did enter an invoice for everything. For our rent, I created an invoice. For our utility bill, I created an invoice. You know, and I've kind of changed styles over the years. Actually, with MaxxTraxx, when I was using MaxxTraxx in 2008, I didn't actually go through and enter all these bills. I just kept a spreadsheet, and I actually had it taped to my desk that, you know, my rent was due on the 1st, my electric bill was due on the 5th, the uniform company and the trash company both came on the 10th. So instead of going through and entering all these into the management system itself, I would just write a check when they showed up. And I would just say, for example, this would be to Ron's Properties. This would be my rent. And I would just post it off, hit, you know, I may say this is December rent. And I hit tab and, you know, lease rent, go down to L's. Okay, lease rent, building. So you know, and I kind of, again, I just did this because I was the only one paying the bills for 2 locations, and it's all I did really was that kind of office management, and it was simple. I was the only one touching this stuff. The problem is that, you know, if you have some people putting the bills in or some people just writing the check, what happens is I could now have under vendors, accounts payable vendor list. Now if I go to Ron's properties, actually here's a different Ron, but I could click on options, create new invoice, and say deck rent, because I don't really have an invoice number for my rent. Let's say it was due on the 1st, or got the invoice on the 1st, it was due by the 10th. So you see I could do it this way too. I think the most important thing for you guys is just to think about what is the workflow in my shop. And I put it here. So you guys can see I can do enter bills. And even if at this very moment I am now tagging it at $4,500 and paying it right now, and starting the write a check wizard. Okay, couple different ways you can do that. What's kind of cool though is if you have multiple people paying the bills, or you have a bookkeeper coming in once a week or whatever. I don't know you guys' individual situations is. You could see how instead of letting them all just pile up or risk them, you know, getting lost or something, you might want to say, we're going to do everything through enter bills. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm not going to write this check, okay? We may say that every single solitary purchase that we make or bill that we receive for our business is going to go through enter bills, and then everything one way or another will then, of course, Ron's would flow over to pay bills. Let's go over here and look. Here's Ron. He's actually got 2 of them here, but there's my December rent. So everything will show up under pay bills. So I guess the other thing to do is just before you actually cut that check for rent, check the pay bills and make sure somebody didn't already put it in. Okay? So that's kind of my word about the enter bills. But if I were to go back and do it again, I would absolutely go back to, yes, every single bill that I enter, every time I open up my mail, open that envelope, put that bill in the system through enter bills. I do think it's actually a more organized, kind of responsible way of doing it. Now, my only other question was, you guys know how they're getting on us for about 1099. If a company is not a corporation, we have to 1099 them. So I used to think, well, if I don't go through enter bills and they're a vendor, my 1099s aren't correct because I have 1099 available under reports. I think it's under reports. Let's look really quick. Account payable. You have 1099 report. What I found out is as long as they are designated as a vendor, even if I just go through the write a check feature and don't enter the bill first through here, the 1099 report will actually print out any check that you wrote to that payee for the entire year. So it's kind of up to you guys, whatever you think is going to be a better workflow for your shop. Okay. Any questions? We've kind of covered a lot there. Any questions on entering bills, paying bills, or the write a check feature? Okay. We are going to kind of close the loop now because I want to talk about the rest of your bank accounts. Because remember, guys, one of the great, like we always call it, the great equalizer, Rhonda Lou and I, we always joke about this because we work with folks, you know, in their beginning, and you know, their first couple of weeks, and they're worried about, oh, did I get this in or get that in? We're like, guys, don't worry. When you go to reconcile your bank account at the end of the month, you catch all that stuff. You catch anything that might have slipped through the cracks. So how does that work? So let's say we go into banking and we click on Reconcile Bank Account. First thing I want to show you guys, but of course we do this with you, but you can do it on your own, and we do have a training video for it. You select which account you want to set up. And by the way, you rename these under the chart of account. Let's look at that real quick. Let's go under Accounting, Chart of Account. You see, you just hit Edit, and you can make this Wells Fargo, or Wells Fargo, whatever, commercial, whatever you guys want to put. And of course, if you put the bank account number and routing number, we talked about this last Wednesday, it actually does print out a deposit slip on a plain piece of paper that your bank may, not the big banks, I know U.S. Bank and UBS did not take mine, but some of the smaller credit unions, smaller banks actually take the deposit slip out of MaxxTraxx. But if I change it here Let me go back in here, banking, view check register. See, there's my Wells Fargo commercial. So that's how you guys can rename these. So let's say Wells Fargo commercial, I've brand new account. I'm going to go ahead and select it. Oh, obviously I did have something in here before. But the way that we put our beginning balances in, actually, I didn't hit the right button. I went to check register. I want to go to Reconcile bank account. Here it is, Wells Fargo. Under the Add button is where we do our adjustments. And, of course, our beginning balance is an adjustment to our check register. So we'll create a beginning balance setup adjustment. Is a type. I'll hit Edit. The type is a deposit if it's a positive amount. Frankly, there's a few shops that I've set up where their beginning balance on their statement was a negative number. It happens, no big deal. Just make sure you change it to a charge. And this is going to the 19,900 account, the system balance initial setup account. Okay, you guys, we're going to talk about this at length, ad infinitum on Wednesday. But what this beginning balance initial setup account does is it gives us the offsetting, because we're double entry, of course, closed system, closed, accounting, and we need to have the other side of the transaction. So a lot of the times when we're first putting together our trial balance, I'm not quite sure if that is the right amount. So let me just go and maybe do a physical inventory. So that's my parts valuation. Don't forget your accounts payable and accounts receivable do convert over in the data conversion. For you, Sarah, what we'll do is we'll just run an AR report, aging report, and make sure the total matches your general ledger. We'll do the same thing for your APs. We'll do the same thing for your inventory. So we're going to go line by line on your chart of accounts and see what it should be. And what's nice, your fiscal year is January to December, right, Sarah?
Yes.
So it's kind of neat for you guys. Anybody on the call here, everybody starts over in January. So you guys see, we're not going to have to worry about anything from 40,000 down. We're going to have no sales numbers. We don't care. We're not going to have any cost of goods. We don't care. We don't have any for the new year. And no expenses. So it actually shortens a lot of our trial balance setup in our case. But what do we have up here? We're going to have cash on hand, what we call undeposited funds. There are checking accounts. Again, receivables come over in the data conversion. And again, for you, Sarah, we'll just double check that matches your actual AR report. Same thing for inventory, guys. I'm going to do a video on that this week so you have it ready for next week, or actually the first week of January. Actually, I take it back. Your inventory valuation, we're going to talk about this on Wednesday, you're going to want to run immediately after your data conversion. And in your case, Sarah, we're going to make sure you run your 13,000 inventory valuation on December 31st or the day before, whichever is going to be your last day of the year. We're going to want to run this and I'm going to talk about this on Wednesday, but we're going to put a beginning balance in here. So you see, the way that we put each one of these items in here is either through the beginning GL or for the bank account, we always go through banking. So we say which one we want it to go to. And again, we'll walk you through this. But you'll put in your deposit. Let's say you started out with $65.78.11. Now, very, very important. Remember this, guys. There's a few things that I want you to remember. This is one of them. This amount that we put in as our beginning balance for our checking account, this is what is in real life in that checking account on December 31st at midnight. Okay? I don't care, how much you say you have on your check register, because what do we have in here? We have, this is our balance, but we could have some pending credit card charges that we ran on Friday. They're not going to show up until Monday, January 2nd, right? We could have some checks, and we all know at the end of the year, we all get a little crazy with our checkbooks, right? And we don't even care if it makes our bank account totally negative, as, we just write all the checks. Buying a piece of equipment, doing bonuses, all those kinds of things. Now, you may actually, on your check register, have even put in your balance negative $10,000. I've seen that a lot, honestly, more than that, in fact. But in reality, those checks have not cleared. Those checks may not clear for another week or two. But we still put what's in our beginning balance according to online banking, or you guys will call the next day and find out what your bank says. Actually, they're going to be closed on January 1st. So probably online banking. Or don't forget, guys, we can put in this beginning balance, I don't know, January 8th if we wanted to. Again, we have a SQL database that lets us backdate this stuff. So why is this so important? When we put this beginning balance in, we kind of just don't worry about it until we actually reconcile our bank account in February. But then I have people that say, you know what, Sabrina, no, I want to know by January 3rd in MaxxTraxx what my check register should be. And I appreciate that, and that's okay. Then just reconcile your December, and then you guys are going to have a whole list of checks that didn't go through. You're going to have maybe a deposit or two that you are actually putting in 2011's business as far as sales and income, but is then not actually showing up until maybe January 2nd or 3rd. Now the key there is for anything that was in real life paid in 2011 but not posted or cleared till 2012, we'll put all of those either checks, we'll just put that in there, checks or deposits or whatever to the 19900 account. I mean, that's just our golden rule. We're just knowing that anything that in real life was dated 12/31/2011 goes off to the 19900 account. We've already accounted for that in our financials. Okay, does that make sense, guys? Okay, if again you get in the thick of it, no big deal. We can always step through that together. But that's how we put our beginning balances up in our checking account. Okay. Let's see, the last thing I wanted to touch on, and we do actually have a dedicated training video for this. I actually did not put it on the lesson 8 of the self-paced training curriculum, but I think I'll add it. We have a cool feature. Yeah, I don't care about that. We have a cool feature to actually, let me guess here. Let me see. Looking at accounts receivable for a vendor. Whoops, that owes me money. Let's look at this. So I want to show you for this example. Probably should have looked it up before. Don't want to do that. Let's see, don't want to do that. I might use that one. Okay. Hannah transmission, well, let's see. Hannah or Merle's, let me write them down. I can look at these. Okay. Now these are people that owe us money, owe our shop. Hannah Transmission owes us. Merle's Auto Supply owes us. Obviously, they owe us. What does Merle's owe us? 25 bucks. Okay. So if I were to go into my pay bills, and I don't know if I have an invoice from Merle's. Let's look. You know, I don't. That's okay. We'll do one really quick. So if we go into restock parts, and there's 2 ways of doing this. This is actually great. Merle's, and let's just say we bought $100 for the parts. And let's just say, gosh, let's see if I just got a radiator I can throw on there. Let's say we get a radiator from these guys. Oh, let's do some hoses. We'll do those. Those would be better. Let's say 4 hoses, 25 bucks a piece. Okay. So when I click OK, Save, Post and Update Inventory, Merle's, that's my invoice number, shows up because I owe them now for those 4 hoses I bought. Thank you very much. I owe them under Pay Bills. So if I scroll down to Merle's and I click Next, because now it's a month later and I need to pay my bill, and I click Select, I'm like, well, you know what? I think that Merle's owes me money. Oh, here's a little side note too. Look at this, guys. They actually have an AR discount. If I pay Merle's in less than my 30 days or by the 10th of the month instead of the 25th, look, I have an automatic 2% discount calculated for this vendor, and that is set up in each individual vendor record. Keep in mind, guys, it's not retroactive. It's only going forward, so you might have to manually calculate that. So if you have any problems with that, that's another thing. Get us on the phone, tech support. We'll walk you through it. You'll never have to remember how to do it manually again. So I can, though, say show open AR transactions that can be applied as payment to my parts warehouse. Well, let's see. If I show anything, God, I thought that I had something in Merle's. You know what? I bet you. Let's look at something. I wonder if I don't have these guys hooked up. $100. Details. Nope, nope. Now they should be hooked together. So I'm going this vendor account, guys. I'm hitting options, and I'm hitting view and edit record type. Okay, they used to be a customer. See if they make them a customer again. Oh, I didn't have them hooked together, guys. That only happens if I do it ahead of time. Which one I do know is hooked together. Let's look at this. Sorry to confuse you guys. Let's go to all data, because I think this is what my training video is about. If I click on options, view and edit record type, I can see that my all data is a customer and a vendor. So how does that work then? Let's see if I owe all data anything under pay bills. Do I owe them? I do. Okay, I do. So let's say, let's go the other way around. Let's say that, let's do all data. Put them down for a quick little oil change. Oops, what am I doing? We're going to write a new repair order. We're going to give them just a quick oil change, get this on account. Let's see, kits. Put this guy on here. I'll be okay. Of course, I'd never close this out with a placeholder, but let's say we're just going to put this on account. Pay, override. See all this override stuff that you guys would never do. So let's say this is just go on AR. Well, first of all, check this out. Credit available. See, I owe all data. My monthly subscription, $106.29, for example. You see it showing me credit available. Okay, but so I could use it right now, or let's just put it on AR, because this is probably more common that you guys will have an pay bill. You have to pay all data. Let's see if this will work. Check it out. Okay, you see, that's my, July, sorry. I'm really behind. This is my $106.29 that I owe all data. But see, I can click this box that says show any AR transactions I can apply. And voila, there's my $61 oil change that I just did for him. Okay, do you guys see how that works? So I tagged them both. This will clear out his accounts receivable. He's, all data's sales guy is not going to owe me that $61.55 anymore. I'm applying what he owes me. This is that cool trade feature to my bill for all data. So I click next, and I just write a check for the difference. Okay, let's look at this one other thing, guys. I can pay cash. If I select pay cash here, this would be taking $44.74, which of course I wouldn't mail cash in this scenario, but that is actually coming out of my green money bag up here, my cash drawer. And I would see at the end of today, because I do my daily sales and cash drawer report every night, I would see I would be missing $44.74 out of my cash drawer. Okay, that's what happens if you select cash. And, my guess is for you guys, pretty much most of your pay bills you're going to be doing electronically or write a check. So let's just say for this guy, write a check. Okay, so I'm going to say print later. But that's how that trade feature works. You see, I also have an opportunity to click the box here, include open AR transactions that can be applied as payment. Now, what's key, just like we saw with Merle, what's key is you have to link those two accounts together beforehand, or else they're not seeing each other. So please do take a chance, take a spin and look at that. I think it's called Pay ARs with APs training video, because I don't know about you guys, but we do a fair amount of trade. We really do, for the guy that fixed our roll-up doors, for our trash guy. I mean, so instead of swapping checks, which you certainly can do, you also have this feature to be able to actually pay them out using credits. And it keeps a history. It shows you, it will keep a transaction history that says, oh, I actually used this person's AR credit to pay my bill. Make sense? So, a little more advanced feature, but I thought I'd let you guys know about it. Okay, so we pretty much covered the bank account stuff, the setting up the bank account, the writing the checks, what you do if they're electronic checks or using a debit card. The make bank deposit, remember we talked about in the daily sales and cash store report day. We talked about that in that webinar on Wednesday. This is where you go into the make bank deposit. So side note, and we're talking about this more on Wednesday, this amount here in this little parentheses, these $200 cash available for MaxxTraxx users, this is the same thing as your cash in drawer or your petty cash. That's the same thing. It's just, for me, this is probably the least friendly part of MaxxTraxx. It was the hardest concept for me to get. But I just want a little reminder, and we're going to talk much more about that on Wednesday, because that goes to, you know, how we put in our beginning balances for our cash on hand. And there is no petty cash in MaxxTraxx, and I'll tell you why. I almost wish they would take this off. There's no clean way to get in and out of this petty cash to this 10,000 account, which you guys have in MaxxTraxx. You know how we move it from the cash drawer to the bank? This undeposited funds would be, to the safe, forgive me, cash drawer to the safe, and from the safe to the bank. Doesn't work that way in MaxxTraxx, so we're going to talk a little bit more about that on Wednesday. Okay, guys, you've been a quiet crowd today. Either you're riveted or this is all that.
And we're all tired.
I hear ya. Okay, guys, well, we're going to go ahead and wrap up for today. Please do join me for Wednesday. We really talk about those beginning general ledger balances, which are a big deal. And I know that at least one person on the call. Jody, you guys do payroll in MaxxTraxx, in MaxxTraxx right now, right?
No.
Oh, you don't?
Already.
That's right. What about you, Amanda? I don't know if Amanda's with us right now.
We do use a third-party service, but I enter the data to flow through the accounting stream.
We'll talk about that as well, too. There's two ways you can do it. You can actually use the payroll feature to stuff all that stuff in, or you can just do the write a check feature and expense it down to a 60,000 account. I think we have one more shop, though, that is converting at the end of the month. That was on Wednesday, actually, and Friday. So we are going to be covering some payroll information. If there aren't a lot of people that are looking for payroll, we'll kind of buzz through that and focus more on the beginning general ledger balances. Again, not that difficult, guys. We do assist you with that setup just to make sure everything's going to the right spot. A little bit sausage making in the beginning. I mean, honestly, I think I mentioned this. I've only had one shop ever be able to put in his beginning trial balance numbers into MaxxTraxx from MaxxTraxx and have them be correct. We just find that people use this opportunity, especially at the end of your fiscal year, to clean that stuff up. And in your case, Sarah, we're going to actually be going through and manually cleaning out a bunch of stuff. Now, we may not get our beginning balances for all of our assets and our payables till the first, second, third week of January. Frankly, as long as you're doing all your daily sales stuff and your banking, we could go back as far as March if we wanted to and put in some of our beginning balance balance sheet entries. Again, we're not going to have income numbers starting January 1 because you guys all start fiscal year, but you can see some of our beginning balance numbers we'll go back and put in. So we'll work through those together. Okay, guys, look forward to seeing you on Wednesday. Hope everybody gets all their holiday shopping done soon. I guess that's about me. I guess I talk about myself. So. Thanks, guys, and we'll talk to you on Wednesday.
Thank you.
Yeah, Randy, what's up?
Are we having a webinar tomorrow?
We are having an open forum webinar, so yeah, if you guys have any other questions, please join. I do have one shop, Steve from Landscape Equipment in New York, is going to be on asking some great questions, I'm sure. But remember, Tuesday, Thursdays are your time. So if we didn't cover something or if you have something that was off topic from today, join us for the webinar tomorrow.
Talk to you then.